Hello everyone, welcome to On Campus. My name is Brian Nelson, I'll be your host today, and joined with me is Dr. Douglas Mungin, Communications Professor and Director of Forensics here at Solano. Doug, thank you for joining me here today.
No problem, glad to be here.
Now Doug, when people think of forensics, they often think of science and the show CSI, but we both know forensics has an alternate meaning, so what is forensics for people who don't know?
So forensics, the name forensics actually comes from the classic Greek orators. And so back in the day, there were no forensic sciences. So if there was a court case, you had to talk. You had to talk your way out of your crime. And so forensics comes from the Latin word to find the truth. And so when we talk about forensics, what we're trying to do is find the truth or find the meaning behind something. And so that definition has lasted all the way to today. And so when we talk about forensics in its current form, what we're really talking about is trying to find the truth of human nature, the truth about a subject, the truth about who we are as people.
Absolutely. And for those, the other term for it is obviously speech and debate.
Yes.
How did you first get involved with speech and debate or forensics?
So I've actually been doing speech and debate since I was in first grade.
Wow.
There was a competition for Christian schools. It was biblical interpretation. And so little tiny Doug with a mini afro in 1980 was competing, doing a verse from the Bible. And then so I was like, you know, like doing like a John or Matthew verse. And then I did that all the way from first grade to 8th grade. In high school, I joined the speech and debate team. I did really well there, went to state competitions. And then my senior year, I did mock trial because I thought I was going to be a lawyer. That did not work out so well. And then I refounded my sophomore year in college at San Francisco State. And I've been involved in this activity ever since then.
So what made you decide to make the switch from being a competitor all those years to transition over to coaching?
So as a competitor, our coaches were very limited. We only had about 2 or 3 coaches at the time helping our side of the competition, and so we would have to coach each other. And so it was from that point, starting around my sophomore junior year, that I started to help other competitors craft pieces, work on delivery. And so in addition to that, I helped with the debate team. And so since my sophomore junior year in college, I've been almost coaching ever since then.
And your group in San Francisco State was pretty interesting in that a lot of you became coaches. Robert Hawkins over at DVC, Kevin Brian Chesko at LA Valley, Stephanie Eisenberg taught at Chabot, just to name a few.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to be a part of that group that continued on in the activity and has now passed on your knowledge to the next generation?
It feels like I've never left because we've been doing this for so long. I think that most of us have been doing it since we were 20, and now we're in our late 30s, mid 30s. So we've been together doing this activity for such a long period of time that it felt like a natural progression that all of us took that step together. And it's been amazing being a part of Northern California forensics and having this tight-knit group that you competed with, but now are competing against. But this is all for the students, and so we come from it trying to get the students to a level of scholarship, but also a level of being a person, being a citizen in this world, and an engaged citizen. And so I think that's the work that we're all trying to do here.
Now, you mentioned your background is a lot in Northern California, but you got your doctorate over at Louisiana State University.
Yes.
How's your time over at LSU? How was that for you?
It was great. So one of the things that forensics taught me is performance studies. And so when I first started college, I was a criminal justice major wanting to get into law school. And then it was through forensics that I found out about communication studies. And then I also found out about performance studies. And that was where my heart was. And so from there, I had the opportunity to do a lot of plays in San Francisco, do a lot of performances. And so I saw an opportunity in my mid-20s to actually go for the master's and PhD, and decided to go for it. And luckily, I went to an amazing school at Louisiana State where I got a chance to really experiment with the art form of performance, really expand who I was as a scholar, but also as a teacher. And so just bringing those three elements together, it allowed me to view not only forensics, but performance, debate, and scholarship in this really unique amazing light that hopefully has allowed me to pass that on to the students here at Solano.
Now, speaking of finding out, how did you first find out about the job opening here at Solano?
I actually had a couple of friends who've been trying to get me back into forensics for some time, and so whenever there was a job opening in California, they were like, hey, Doug, come back. And so Solano offered itself an amazing opportunity. One, I have family members in Solano County, but two, I remember Solano being a competitor as a coach, as a very competitive team that had deep roots within this community, and it was an opportunity to kind of not only get back, but get back with coaches that I already knew from when I was a competitor, but in addition, being a part of a competitive team in a community that is looking for to kind of like take that next step in terms of competition and kind of like bring back the old days of where Solano was #1, and hopefully we're doing a good job of bringing that back.
Yeah, I definitely hope so too.
Yeah.
So how has your transition been out of LSU? You've been here for now a year and a half, 3 semesters. How has that transition been for you, both personally and in forensics?
So when I first got here, I was incredibly scared because, one, you got out of grad school and now you're a teacher. It was like, oh crap, I'm an adult now. But number two, it was I went from the swamp to the desert, so to farmland. So just acclimating myself to kind of the culture around me. But I was welcomed with open arms here, and so that's the one thing that's great about Solano, where it wasn't only the administration, but the students who welcomed me in and became a part of this community. And so it hasn't been as stressful as I thought it was going to be. I think in my head I thought it was going to be a crazy time, but luckily I have amazing assistant coaches, I have an amazing team, and the students in my classes are incredible human beings with this hunger to learn, and I think that has helped me become a better person and also kind of set my roots here in a way.
One of the interesting things is, as you were hired, you weren't able to recruit from your first class for your first year here.
Yeah.
We basically had the students who signed up for the class not knowing what it was or had heard from it from previous years.
Yeah.
How was the difference between having a team like that, where you kind of field a team based off word of mouth, versus you getting an opportunity to recruit yourself?
It allowed me an opportunity to experiment. And so I think that was it, the cool part of last year of, all right, so I have this new team, I'm the director, and I have this group of really amazing assistant coaches. Let's see what we can do to experiment and get these kids up to stuff in a way, but also to expand them in terms of like what forensics is. So it was a really cool workshop experiment. And now that we've experimented a little bit, we know what works with the students here, and I think that's allowed us an opportunity to kind of view the pieces that we have constructed in a very unique way that isn't as if we were coming in with a base of students who already knew what to do, where it's like, it's a very organic teaching element that's happening with our workshops now and in our classroom that I feel that has inspired the students to kind of know forensics in a way that most competitors don't really know forensics.
Once again, I am joined here by Dr. Douglas Mungin here. We're talking about the forensics program here at Solano. What are ultimately some of your goals as the director here with the forensics team as a whole? Well,
I think number one, the goal is to be successful. I think that whenever you are a director, in order for you to have other goals, you need to first have success. So my goal is to become a nationally competitive team once again, and that's not only in debate, but also in speeches and in interpretation events also. But in addition to that, I think one of the big things that we're doing this year that we're starting is to really start to grow the high schools around us. And so we are serving as an incubator for 3 different high schools this semester, teaching them how to do speech and debate, kind of signing them up to different competitions, showing them the ropes, and hopefully working with these high schools will allow for the community in Solano County and the surrounding counties to kind of build up. One way to bring more students into Solano College as a way of showing us that we are part of this community, that we are a beacon of education, but also of practice and praxis. And so doing that and kind of doing that outreach while being competitive, I think that we are really setting ourselves up to be more than just a speech and debate team, but something that has really long-lasting capabilities to like really grow this community.
Yeah, and speaking from somebody who competed on the team, I never found out about Solano forensics, or forensics in general, until I came to Solano when I was in high school and never heard of speech and debate or forensics. So your outreach definitely is something new to the area. Is that what gave you that motivation to try to influence not only Solano but the community itself?
Well, one, we started to have a lot of high school students at Solano College, and so and those students had no idea what speech and debate was. So it was like, well, if they're coming from high schools here and they don't know what speech and debate is, then maybe we should probably start reaching out to those high schools and getting them involved in this. So when the students do come here, there's some background knowledge. But also, I think that part of a community college's core tenets needs to be that community outreach of being the representation of the community around you, and I think that that connection to that high school is increasing that message to the community that Solano College isn't just here because, you know, like, oh, you didn't get into a UC or state, that we are a we are a location that you want to be at, and that we aren't just kind of like a second choice, but we are a first choice of education, but we are also a first choice of learning necessary skills to become a better person, but also to be a better communicator too.
And so both you and I obviously have backgrounds in forensics, and it's changed our lives completely. What does forensics do for a person, for those who don't know? What kind of growth does it give people?
It gives you tremendous growth. So when I was in high school, my family, we lost our home. And so we were homeless for about a year and a half. And I went to this private school because I was a scholarship kid, and then had to come back, like walk back home 2 miles every day to kind of this shack with like no lights. And it was during those walks that I would practice speech and debate, that I would practice my pieces and just prepare and prepare. And one of the goals that I had was to become a national champion or to become a state champion. And for a poor kid who felt that his voice wasn't heard, who was in situations that weren't of my own doing, but you know, that I had to fight my way out of, that speech and debate gave me the opportunity to find my voice, to not only find my voice in a way of like, hey, I'm going to shout, like what would I feel, but also to figure out who I was as an educated human being who had something to say that was meaningful. And I think that speech and debate allows students who traditionally don't have a voice, especially coming to a school like Solano, where a lot of students don't necessarily feel that they should be speaking. And I think that one of the things that we try to teach here is that you do have a voice and that it's important. And that's the one thing that I try to teach every student, that no matter like how you got here, it doesn't matter, but you are going to be a better person when you leave here.
Absolutely. And if you are interested in joining speech and debate, you can sign up for COM 50 with either Dr. Douglas Mungin or Janine Whitesell for either 1 through 4 units. I'll break down the units for you right now. 1 unit is if you really just want to help. You have to keep up with current events a lot. We need a lot of researchers, so if you are tempted to help us with the research aspect, you can sign up for 1 unit. 2 units, you can travel to all the local tournaments here in Northern California. But if you really want a life-changing experience and you want to go all in, you can sign up for 3 or 4 units for COM 50, and you can be part of the travel team, go to state and nationals potentially, and nationals this year will be held in Florida. So Dr. Douglas Mungin, thank you once again for joining me here today at the Solano College Sports Network studio. My name is Brian Nelson. Thank you for watching.